Hi, everyone. Imagine the little newborn child, the small mouth, the tip of the nose, the tiny fingers and toes. We are all in that stage depending on the people around us. Our whole existence is based on that someone is taking care of us, raising us. And if our body at that stage is not perfect, it's yet not so obvious. Some of the things I will talk about, I guess also boys and men with disability can recognize. But it's also important to remember that we who are living with a disability is in no way a homogeneous group. Perhaps it is so that we many times by others are defined based on our disability, while for ourselves it comes further down of the list of who I am. I also would like to point out that I'm in no means an expert on this area. In the stories of and discussions with women with disabilities about growing up and being a young woman with a body that does not have full functionality, there are two descriptions that always recur. The story of being a body, an item in need of correction, and the story of not being seen as a woman, as a sexual being, as a woman among women. Lulu Kolmar, a reporter and producer at the Swedish radio, was born in the mid-60s with only one leg. A month ago, she described in a chronicle a train ride she did recently. I'm going to read a part of the text. In the dining car, a man sits down opposite me on the vinyl seat. He leans forward over the wine sloshing in a plastic glass and says familiarly, "I can see you are one-legged. God, so interesting. And then he scouts down under the table to see my lower part of the body. You have no leg at all on that side then? Walk with crutches? But you. Why don't you operate in a prosthesis in the stump?" I get the feeling he had just ripped off my clothes without any of my fellow passengers noticing that. Then the reader may follow in Lulu's description of her upbringing, her choice to abstain prosthesis and use crutches instead, and I will quote the end of her text. He is in the midst of a vivid description of how my prosthetic leg will be screwed on a thread that is rooted in the hip. No one will even be able to see that I didn't have two legs from the start. He's florid and sweaty and gesticulating, so the buttons are likely to open. I think a lot of details also on his body could be improved. But I would not dream of going up to him unasked and propose corrections. This is a text I think says so much about both being a woman and about not to fulfill the body norms. I wonder, is it the actual physical appearance that people react to? Or is it rather the link made to the restrictions as soon as a body is not fully functioning? How many times have we not heard someone say, "As long as I just don't end up in a wheelchair"? As if that would be the worst thing that could happen. It's not. My wheelchair is definitely my dearest and most important property. An example of stigmatizing view of a wheelchair and the glorification of the ability to walk can be found in a movie, a film that many in my generation, and both younger and older in Sweden, grew up with. Rännstensungar, Kids of the Gutter. I'm going to tell you the story. When the mother dies, the poor and unknown painter Johan Fahlén takes care of the little girl Nina. She is paralyzed from below the waist, but Fahlén promises that one day she will be able to walk. We can see Nina sitting in her wheelchair and looking out through the window at the other children playing outside. In the end, though, she's suddenly getting out of her wheelchair, start walking and running. The sun is shining, beautiful music, happy end. A cruel story, I would say, that conveys that true happiness can only be found if you can walk, and anything else is a big failure. And then we grow up, and we become young women. Too bad that you, looking so good, being so pretty, ended up in a wheelchair. Can you fuck? A tentative hand on my leg while my eyes are fixed to check if I can feel the touch or not. Taxi drivers offering mercy fucks to be kind. These experiences are my own and others. I've heard them so many times and from different women. In 2007, a comprehensive study of violence against women with disabilities were made in Sweden. What struck me, in addition to the high incidence of threats of violence and violence, was also the analysis of why it takes longer before violence against these women are discovered or reported. Is there a glorification of a man or a woman living with a woman with a disability? Is that person seen as a hero, a Florence Nightingale, who does a good deed, rather than being one of two persons in an equal relationship where both give and take? Yes, I think so. I think that is one of the explanations. And then we are back to that it can also be very dangerous not to see someone as a sexual individual. So, let the girls with disability be girls and be children, encouraging independence in every way. Of course, as far as possible physically, but the mental independence is even more important. Being able to stand firm and to show respect and to require respect, to stand for their beliefs and to fight for their dreams. Being able to set boundaries and assert the right to control their body also in situations when help from someone else is necessary. In the feminist movement we see now, remember also women with disabilities. We are and we will be a part of the fight for the right to education, the right to be able to support ourselves, the right to a career, the right to get the help we need for our daily life in aid and personal assistance, the right not to be afraid of threats, assaults and harassment, and if it does occur, the right to seek help, the right to be believed by the police and to be received at the women's shelters, the right to be women among women. The fight is also ours, and we have a shared responsibility to highlight this, all of us. I want to conclude by going back to the picture of the little child with the same dreams and the same right to shape their future, regardless of gender identity, and regardless of disability. Thank you.